Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Erin and I'm the Petite Planner, and today's video is going to be a 3D Procreate lettering tutorial to learn how to make this fun piece. But first I want to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. Some of my favorite classes are definitely in the Procreate area because Procreate's a big program and there's a lot to it, but there is so much stuff to learn on Skillshare. So whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, your career, or maybe even your schooling, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Skillshare is also super affordable. An annual subscription will cost you less than $10 a month, and with that premium membership, you will have unlimited access to classes, communities, and everything that Skillshare offers to really improve your learning experience. So I highly encourage you to check it out. The link that is down in my description will give you 2 free months to Skillshare to access all of their courses, content, communities, everything to get you learning. So check it out and we'll get right into this video. Okay, so we're going to start with our blank canvas here. I have a square canvas. You can use whatever size you want. And we're going to come up here, and the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to change my background color to an orangey, a light orange. And then the next thing we need to do to very first start is we're going to go up to our little wrench up here in the corner, and we're going to hit add text. And you're going to want to go with a sans serif, so no little serifs font. So the font that I'm using is Ina 01, but you could choose pretty much any of these that don't have serifs. So then when we're done, we'll go back to our keyboard and you're going to type in your word. So I'm going to use caps lock and I'm going to type fall. And then you can just hit this arrow key up here. You could also change your size here. I like to just use the arrow keys and drag it to the size that I want. So we're gonna make it pretty big. And I actually think that I'm going to change this font so that it's a little bit wider. So I'm gonna try to find one that is wider. Okay. So not rounded. Okay, so I'm going to go with the impact font, and my size currently is 462.9 and I have it in white. So now I can move it wherever I want it. For now, it doesn't really matter. We're going to place it right in the center, kind of. And we're going to zoom in. And actually, let's just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so there we have it big enough. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to rasterize this type. And rasterizing it means that we won't be able to edit the actual text, the letters, and what they say, because it's going to turn it into just like a smart object. So when you click on your layer tab and you click here, we're gonna rasterize. And then you can see here that it's no longer a font, it is just an object here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate this 2 times. So this first one I'm going to rename to the text. So this is what's going to be on top. We're going to rename the second one to 3D, and we're going to rename the last one to shadow. And you don't have to do all the renaming if you don't want to. It makes it a little bit easier when you are working with things. So the first thing we need to do is we are going to decide on the color that we want here, and which we could have done when we created our text, but for the sake, I want to show you how to recolor. So I'm going to go with like a really deep orangey red. And so I have the color up here and I'm just going to drag and drop it into these letters. Make sure you are on the text. So here, just like that. And now we're going to turn this layer off. And so now we want to be on the 3D layer. Now I want you to select the color for the 3D part. So this is going to be the sides. So I'm going to go with kind of a brown, like a deep, maybe reddish brown, like a brick color. And we're going to do the same thing. So drag and drop, drag and drop, and drag and drop. So now while you still have this color selected, go back and turn on your text layer so that it's above it. So now we can't see our 3D layer. And what we want to do is go up here to the move key. And now we're going to drag our 3D layer into position. So we're going to start pulling down and to the right like this. And I want there to be a little bit of space between those letters. So like maybe right there. So now we have our 3D effect, but it's not really complete. It just looks more like a drop shadow. So this is where we're going to start to take and do some of our own work. So I'm going to go up here to the airbrush and I'm going to go to hard airbrush. We're using the same color that we used for that 3D. I'm going to turn my size down. So I'm at 5%. We'll see how that goes. So I'm going to zoom in, and what we're doing is we are connecting all the corresponding corners. So this bottom left corner of the F to the bottom left corner of the F in the 3D layer. So we're only drawing though on the 3D layer. Make sure you're on the 3D layer. And so 5 is going to be a little bit too big. So we're going to crank it down to 2 and see. So then I'm just creating these diagonal lines, and then I'm going to fill that in right there. So that's what we're going to do for all these. I'm going to put this into fast forward because this does take a minute, but just start connecting your corners and we'll come back when we're done. Okay, so now we have the 3D portion of our lettering done, and you can see what a difference it makes just by connecting those corners. It no longer looks like a drop shadow. It looks like it's connected to this front orange part of the text. So now that we have that, we still have our shadow to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off our text in our 3D layer by clicking these little check marks on the side. So now all we're left with is the shadow. Make sure you're on that layer and that it is selected. So for this, what I want to do is I want to take and I want to select this background color, and that's going to give me kind of a starting point, and now I want to make it darker. So I'm just going to kind of move it down a little and find one that I like. And we're going to do the same thing. So drag and drop into each of these letters on your shadow layer. So this is now your shadow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn both of these back on with your shadow layer still selected. We are going to move this in the opposite direction of our text right here. So we're just going to scoot it down this way like that. And now we have a shadow, but we can make it look a little bit more realistic. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go up here to the adjustments, which is this little wand, and I'm going to go to motion blur. And motion blur, instead of Gaussian blur, it's going to blur in the direction that you drag your pen. So for this, I'm going to drag my pen up and to the right, and we're not going to do a lot, just a little. And so we're just going to start until it kind of gets that nice faded effect. Right about there. So that's 18.6. And so that creates a very nice gradient, and it's very soft. If you want it to be softer, you can come in here to your shadow layer, click the little N, and then change your opacity to bring it down. I'm going to leave mine at about 86. So there we have that. Now, the last method that we need to instill here in the technique that I want to teach you is to create a little bit more realistic look to this 3D effect. We have the drop shadow, but now we need to change some of these 3D sides to make them darker, because if we have a light source that's casting a shadow, it will also be casting a shadow on the 3D portion of the letters. So for this, we're pretending, I'm just going to go up here. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to show that our light source is up here and it's shining this way, right? Because our shadow is casting this way. So anything that falls on this right-hand upper side is going to be in the light, but anything that falls below is going to be shaded. So we're going to go back to our 3D layer here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer above it. So just hit the plus button. It'll create a layer directly above it. So between the 3D layer and the text. Now go to your new layer and select the color with your finger of the 3D layer. So now that'll pull up the exact same color we used in the 3D layer, and we want to darken that even further. So I'm just gonna get a darker tone here. Now we're on this layer between the 3D layer and the text, and I'm gonna click it once and it brings up this side menu, and I'm gonna hit clipping mask. So the clipping mask is going to allow me that I can only draw over this 3D layer. So if I try to draw here, it's not gonna do anything. But the minute that I cross over that 3D layer, it's there. So now it doesn't matter what pen you use. I'm gonna use the hard airbrush and I'm gonna turn it up just a little, probably a 5. And now we're gonna start creating our shadows. So this is kind of the same thing. So we have a shadow on the bottom because the light wouldn't be hitting it. So what we're gonna do is draw a line from this corner to this corner and make this bottom part shaded in. And if you have big lettering, the fastest way to do this is to create like a box and then drag and drop your color. And if you go over the corner, then you can come back with your eraser and touch it up. So again, I'm going to fast forward through this. Just practice. Sometimes shadows take a while to get used to and to making them right. But with practice and just kind of putting in perspective, if you have to in a new layer, draw your light source at the top, and that might help you kind of get a better idea of where your shadows should be. Okay, so now I have darkened up all these bottom areas that would not be in the light. And just so you know, because I didn't slow down, I added this shadow here under the A, and then I used the smudge brush, which I am currently using a medium airbrush, and I just kind of smudged it together. And you can work on this a little bit more so that it looks more natural. You can sit and blend it for a while, but then you can create that without having that really harsh line where the corners are. Okay, so now the last thing that we want to do, because technically our text is complete, but I wanted to show you just a couple other tricks that you can use to add some texture and things like that. So now we're going to go to our fall text and we're going to select it, or no, we're going to add a layer above our text. And then we are going to do the same thing. So we're going to do a clipping mask and we're going to come here and we can go to, let's see, textures or abstract. Let's see, I don't know. Okay, so under retro, there is a brush called Rad and it is a texture brush. So we're going to pick this up and I'm going to go in and I'm going to select this color and then I'm going to lighten it. Maybe make it a little bit more orangey. So now with this selected, we are on the clipping mask above the text. And I'm going to decide what size I want here. It doesn't really, it's up to you how big you want it. And we're just going to start to kind of, oop, that's starting to blend into the background. Okay, maybe let's do a different shade. We're going to go a bright orange. Like that. And now we'll go. And the harder you push on this brush, the more you're going to get that really defined look. And then the lighter you push, you're going to get more of a soft look. So that kind of gives it the impression of leaves. So then we have that complete. And then as I showed in the very beginning, the last step is just to add some fun things. So I bought these stamps from Creative Market, and what you can do with these is you can use them to place like an inky colored stamp. So I'm going to do this and then maybe go to yellow and then make it pretty big, and we're going to go all the way down here at the very bottom, so just above the background color. If you don't have a layer here, what you can do is you can hit on your shadow layer and plus, and then drag the layer below it. So that would work. So I'm going to go to layer 1. I'm going to click this and it's a stamp. So all I got to do is press it in the middle like that. And then what I'm going to do is right above that, I'm going to create another layer. Everything in Procreate is all about layers. And we're going to do a red. maybe deep red. And then we need a different brush. So I'm on layer 7 here. So that's the layer above this stampy blob that I created. We're gonna go in here and get the hard airbrush. And all I'm gonna do is just kind of color over a portion of this. So I know this looks crazy. We're gonna go up here. We're gonna go to Gaussian blur. We're gonna blur it out. And then I'm gonna go here, go to the N. So we're gonna change the blend mode, go over to color, I'm gonna go to hue, and then create a clipping mask. So it kind of just sets it over that. And now if you want, you can turn your background color on and off, or you can change your background color. Sometimes I start with background color and then I find that I ended up wanting something else. So for this one, you could just go with all white since you have that inky background. But that is how you do 3D lettering in Procreate. At least that's the easiest way I've found to do it without trying to sketch out the 3D letters of each individual letter that you create. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. It was pretty long.